Hello friends and fellow bibliophiles, welcome back to Kat's Novel Adventures. In today's video, I am sharing everything that I read in the month of September. September was a really interesting month for me because I traveled. I had traveling adventures at the beginning of the month. I went to Sicily, and I must admit that I did not do a whole lot of reading while I was away. However, once I got back from Sicily, I hit the ground running and read quite a bit. So before I begin talking about the books that I read, I want to just catch you up on some stats. The first thing is I completed my reading challenge. I had set 75 books for my reading goal, and I actually, as of today, am up to 83 books. I'm pretty proud of that. And then I also had quite a few 5 stars. So let me explain my stats for that. So I read a total of 10 books in September, 1 novella, and 4 short stories. And my ratings, I had 10 5 stars, 2 4 stars, and 3 3 stars. So I'm pretty excited about that. I participated in 3 readathons throughout the month of September. They were Series September, Cornival, as well as Week of Weird Round 2. I did a whole separate video for Week of Weird Round 2, which took place the last week of September from the 24th through the 30th. It was hosted by Krista at Fiber Artsy, as well as Jason at Jason's Weird Reads. I had a great time. I ended up reading 1 novella, The Small Hand by Susan Hill, as well as 4 fabulous, weird short stories. So I'll leave a link in the description box below if you would like to check out my thoughts on everything I read for the Week of Weird Round 2. For Series September, which was hosted by Krista at Books and Jams and Sarah at Sarah's Nightstand, I read 3 books to fulfill a bingo. This was a month-long readathon, but I knew with my traveling and everything else that I planned to read that 3 books was doable for me. So I made a bingo by reading Triple, Old, and Chunky. So for Triple, I read the 3rd and last book in the Dead City series called Dark Days. This is by James Ponti. It is following Molly and the Omega team after their experiences in book 2 with fighting the undead. They received some disappointing news about things that have transpired as a result of their last interaction with the zombies, and it affects the Omega team in a negative way and just makes their job a little more difficult. I loved how James Ponti ended the series. It was action-packed, fast-paced. There was a lot of humor in it. It's all about zombies blended with friendship and family. Lots of secrets are revealed. There's also some tough decisions that have to be made. And at the end of the day, they have to decide, how are we really going to be able to interact side by side with zombies? So there's a lot of threats, but at the end of the day, the Omega team comes through. Dead City, Dark Days was a 5-star read for me. For the prompt of Old, I chose The Hidden Staircase, which is the 2nd book in the Nancy Drew series by Carolyn Keene. This mystery has Nancy teaming up with her best friend Helen Corning to assist Helen's aunt and great-grandmother with a ghost at their home. I think that Nancy and Helen make a great team. I love how Nancy is always calm, cool, and collected when she's solving a mystery, especially in this one where her father gets kidnapped. It's always a great time reading Nancy's adventures. I love the way she goes about solving her cases. And I also love a good story that has hidden staircases and mysterious hidden passageways. It's always fun to see where they lead. This was a 5-star read for me. For the chunky prompt, I decided to forego reading a big book and went with reading a book in a long series. So I chose Autopsy by Patricia Cornwell. It is the 25th book in the Kay Scarpetta series. This book follows Kay Scarpetta as she is relocating to Virginia with her husband Benton. She's a forensic pathologist and she has taken the position of chief medical examiner, which does not make the current staff there very excited because they were very loyal to the previous one. And Kay is not on the best terms with him to begin with. But she decides, I'm gonna, go through with all of this and just do my job to the best of my ability. Unfortunately, Kay gets mixed up in a murder that threatens both her personal life as well as her professional career. It has been 3 years since I read my last Kay Scarpetta, and it was so fun to dive back into her world. I love Kay Scarpetta as a literary character. I always find her cases interesting, the whole forensic aspect of it, and I love how she's able to uncover the mystery surrounding the murder or whatever is taking place. I will say though that I wish Cornwell would have stuck with one main plot line instead of a couple like she did in Autopsy. And I wish she would have done more with the railway slayer because that was the most interesting out of the two plot lines. I didn't really care for all of the government conspiracy. And even though it was connected, I just felt like it fell a bit flat. I also thought that it was a little bit too long. It could have been condensed and cut down. Even though it wasn't a favorite, I still enjoyed it enough that I want to continue with the series. It was a 3-star read for me. Now for the Cornival readathon that was hosted by Kelsi at Slime and Slashers. This is for her Kelsi Corns on her Patreon. It was scheduled for 2 weeks from September the 1st through the 15th, but she extended it for the month. She said anybody who wants to go the whole entire month could do that, which I was very grateful because I was out of town throughout those 2 weeks and I wouldn't have been able to participate. So I'm very excited because I really had a great time with this readathon. Kelsi is also very flexible with her prompts. She allowed people to double dip, triple dip. Also, you did not have to read carnival or amusement park books per se. You could read whatever you wanted as long as it fit the prompt. And then you got to earn these little circus carnival characters and a map with rides and everything on it. So it was a lot of great fun. Okay, so I used the 3 books from my series September readathon also for Cornival. So for the prompt of read a book that spells corn on the front cover, I went ahead and chose Autopsy because Patricia Cornwell could count for that. So very excited, even though it was a little bit corny. And for a book that reminds you of childhood, I went ahead and used The Hidden Staircase because this was from my childhood. This was actually the second time I had read it, once as a child, once as an adult. And then Dead City, Dark Days counted for my middle grade or YA read. So, I double dipped in between the 2 series and I don't think anything's wrong with that. For the prompt of read a book with more than 3 words in the title, I chose a book with 5. This was also my Year of Christie choice for August. I didn't get to finish it in August before I left for Sicily. So I actually finished it in Sicily, and that is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. This book is about Roger Ackroyd, who is murdered after receiving a letter from a romantic love interest. As luck would have it, Hercule Poirot is living in King's Abbot, which is the village that Roger Ackroyd lived. So he is asked by Roger's niece if he would please assist with the murder mystery. I absolutely loved this novel. It was so much fun. Of course, I did not guess the murderer. I have yet to be able to in an Agatha Christie book. Pacing is quick throughout this novel. All of the characters have that murder mystery vibe to them. However, they all have a secret, and Hercule Poirot knows they all have a secret, and somehow he is able to draw it out of them. And the ending is so surprising. I can see why The Murder of Roger Ackroyd put Agatha Christie on the map, because it has a lot of interesting characters, a lot of interesting secrets that are revealed. And again, that surprise ending, oh my goodness, wonderful, wonderful. If you have not read The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, I would highly recommend it because it is a lot of great fun. And I gave it 5 stars. My next book counted for 2 prompts: a book set in the fall, as well as a book that reminds you of a Kelsi corn. So I chose Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns by R.L. Stine. It is a Goosebumps book, and it reminds me of Kelsi because she loves pumpkins, she loves Halloween, and she also loves the Goosebumps series. So it was a perfect book to choose for both of these prompts because it does take place during Halloween, which is set in the fall. It is about a young girl named Drew who loves Halloween, and she likes to go with her friend Walker, and they usually have a great fun, but they have 2 classmates that are always pranking them, and they pull a trick on them as well as the rest of their classmates at a Halloween party, and it really does scare everybody, and it was really mean-spirited. So Drew and Walker decide that they're going to get back at these 2, Lee and Tabby, and they have something planned for the following Halloween. Well, something puts a monkey wrench in their plans, and they don't get to actually execute it. So this causes Drew to be even more discouraged about Halloween coming. So she says, fine, we're going to go ahead and I'm still going to put my plan into place. So the next Halloween, she decides, along with Walker and 2 other classmates, that they're going to get her back. And it has to do with some pumpkin heads. I admit that this is not my favorite Goosebumps book, although it was thematic. I like that it was set during Halloween and the story had some spooky elements to it. And as always, R.L. Stine does a great job of keeping his readers engaged till the end. It was a 3-star read for me. For the prompt of read a book with something on the cover that you could find at the circus, I chose If I Ran the Circus by Dr. Seuss. Yes, this is a picture book. For anybody that has followed my channel, you know that I love a good picture book, and this was perfect for the Cornival readathon. This is about Morris McGurk. He has the whimsical idea to turn the vacant lot behind Sneelock's store into the world's greatest show. I love revisiting If I Ran the Circus. I probably have not read this book since I read it to my boys when they were younger. Morris McGurk has a wonderful imagination. There's a lot of sensational acts and terrific animals that you would only find at the world's greatest show. You would find the juggling jots, you would find the to and fro marchers, and then also there's Mr. Sneelock, who is assisting with all kinds of adventurous acts and very unusual animals. It was just really a lot of fun. I love Dr. Seuss's attention to detail. He has such a wonderful way of creating nonsense words along with these very creative and imaginative animals, and he puts it all into a very exciting and adventurous world. You just can't help smiling the entire time that you're reading the book. I think it is stupendous, and I gave it 5 stars. My next book, which is also another picture book, actually worked for 2 prompts, and that was to read a book with food on the cover and read a book with eyes on the cover. So I chose Garfield Goes Camping. This is by Jim Kraft. I mean, it's based on the characters by Jim Davis, and I absolutely love this picture book. It is about Garfield going camping with John and Odie. They're going into the woods. They're supposed to be there for a week. And the park ranger drops them off at their campsite and says, "Don't feed the bears." Of course, everything is going very swell until Garfield decides to eat all of their food. And then they have to meander through the woods trying to find some food and a way to get out of there. Well, it is a fun, adventurous tale for sure, because not only are the illustrations beautiful, but it also has some little flaps that you can lift up and you get to see a mystery illustration behind it, which I absolutely love. Some of the illustrations of what they're thinking about when they're so hungry are hilarious, in my opinion. I mean, Garfield is a mess. He's a cute mess, but he's a mess. And he's always causing trouble for both John and Odie. So it's just a lot of fun seeing how they finally get out of the woods. It was another 5-star read for me. For the next prompt, which was a popcorn read, I chose something fun or silly. And I chose the picture book Probadiddie by Chris Van Allsburg. Chris Van Allsburg is one of my favorite author illustrators, if not my all-time favorite. And this book was delightful. It was fun and silly. It is about a young boy named Calvin who receives 2 tickets from his mom for his birthday to go see Lomax the Magnificent, who is a hypnotist. He decides to bring his friend Rodney with him instead of his little sister Trudy. They have a great time, and when they get home, they decide they're going to build their own hypnotizing machine, and they are going to use Trudy as their experiment to see if it works. Well, she agrees. Trudy's really fun, and she agrees, but then something unexpected arises, and that puts them in a quandary, and they've got to fix it before Calvin's mom gets home. As I said, delightful. It's whimsical, it's clever, it's humorous, beautifully illustrated, just a lot of fun. I love the character of Trudy. She just goes along for the ride. She has her own little plan up her sleeve. It's just a lot of fun, reminding you of like childhood. Also, I love the mischievous nature of the boys. Just a good time. I gave it 5 stars. My next book actually counted for 2 prompts, and that was to read a book with a place in the title, as well as to read a book by a new to you author. And I chose The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. And I'm so happy I finally got to this book because it's also on my 23 books for 2023, and it was awesome. It is about the last house on Needless Street, which Needless Street is an ordinary, quiet, dead-end street. It's near a beautifully wooded area that is not too far from a lake. And the story opens up on the 11th anniversary of a missing child. And then it goes through all of the effects that that abduction has, not only on the child's family, but also the residents of Needless Street. This was an incredible and mesmerizing novel. I really, really enjoyed it because even though it has horrific and heartbreaking situations, I consider it more of a mystery thriller than a horror novel. I went into this story not knowing very much about it, mainly because several of my friends suggested I go into it that way, and I'm so glad I did, because there's a lot of mystery to it and a lot of twists and turns. There's multiple POVs, which I really did enjoy, especially the character of Olivia. I really love the pacing of the novel. I love how it unfolded. and it had a very satisfying ending, in my opinion. It was definitely a 5-star read for me. And the final book that I read for Cornival was for the prompt of read a book with a great first sentence, and I chose The Miraculous by Jess Redman. This also was the middle grade March book club selection for September, so I was able to double dip with that. And let me read you the first sentence in this story. On the night before the funeral, Wonder Ellis stopped believing in miracles. This is the story about 11-year-old Wonder Ellis, who fancies himself as a miracologist, which means that he gathers extraordinary stories or miracles in his journal called The Miraculous. That is until his newborn baby sister dies, and then he does not want to believe in miracles any longer. After his sister's funeral, he encounters a fellow classmate named Faye, who was also at the cemetery because her grandfather recently died, and they end up forming an unlikely friendship because Faye is a little bit much in the beginning. I actually kind of found her kind of annoying, but then she ends up turning out to be a really great friend of Wonder's. But the two of them discover that an old woman lives in an abandoned house, and Faye thinks that the old woman is a witch. Well, we come to find out that she's actually the key to something mysterious, something that will help them heal, not only the two children, but also the whole entire town. And not only will they experience some healing, but they will also believe in miracles once again. This was a beautifully written and engaging middle grade novel. It is about healing, grief, connection, as well as hope. And the characters are layered. There's lots to them, and it really does show grief from all different perspectives. You know, there are different stages of grief, and the characters actually all seem to be one of those characteristics of grief, which I found very interesting. The old woman is a fantastic character, and I love the atmosphere of the doorway house where she is living. I love that the adventures that the children go on so that they can actually try to help the town, because all this time that Wonder has been keeping his journal, a lot of the stories had to do with people in the town. And so it's really nice that they come together along with the old woman and that they're going to try to find ways for them to heal. But I just thought the dynamics of Wonder's family was wonderful. I did love the fact that even though it is middle grade, I think it was appropriate the way Redman handled it, to show child grief and what a child has to go through when they lose a close family member, and what they have to deal with their own families during that crisis. I also love the friendship between Wonder and Faye, and like I said, at first I felt kind of annoyed with Faye just because of the name. She wants to call Wonder Wendy, and she's just like in your face, but she's really spunky. She, does her own thing. She doesn't really care what other people think with the way she dresses. And she really did end up becoming a favorite of mine by the end of the novel. It really does have a terrific ending, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who loves middle grade. It was a 5-star read for me. There were 18 prompts for the Cornival readathon, and I completed 13 of them. And like Kelsi Slasher readathon that she hosted on her Patreon back in June, she created some corny characters for all of her Kelsi corns. They were corns dressed up in carnival or circus outfits. She also created some amusement park rides, and you could put them on the Cornival Big Top Map, which was very exciting. I love my corny corns that I earned, as well as the rides. I love the Big Top Map. It was just a lot of fun. I really am appreciative that she goes the extra mile for her Kelsi corns on her Patreon. We always have a great time over there. So I feel pretty successful with everything that I read for that readathon. That's a wrap for my September reading adventures. I really am excited about everything that I read. I was so glad I was able to squeeze in a couple of picture books. It always makes me happy. And I am very surprised that I got as much reading done with me being out of the country. September was a month of traveling adventures and reading adventures. It really was a superb September. How about you? Did you enjoy your September reading? Did you participate in any of the readathons that I participated in? Did you have a favorite read? As always, thank you for watching. I appreciate you stopping by. In the meantime, stay amazing and be adventurous.